Hey there, and welcome back to another kati-ellen's Bookish Adventures. It is the first wrap-up of the year. Finally, we have clawed our way through January, kicking and screaming. Seriously, it was like the longest month. I don't understand how January can just feel that long. It's quite something. So the first book I read was The Chronicles of Narnia. So I finished this off in January, so this was my December read. I really did enjoy this book. I obviously knew and understood the sort of like what Narnia stood for and what Aslan stood for with the whole Christianity thing and the symbolism. So it was interesting when I was reading it to pick up on the different vibes and the themes, and in general, especially when it came to the last story, the last battle, sort of how things would unfold and what would and wouldn't be explained, you know. Is Narnia heaven, like limbo, all that stuff. Is there kind of like an explanation? It's very weird because it very much kind of, in a weird way, it kind of like, it reminds me of like the Wizard of Oz with like the sort of stories, you know, we're always exploring somewhere new and there are kind of different characters, so it's always changing, there's always something different in the stories. But this one feels like it's written for all ages, where the Wizard of Oz really feels more like a family, more like a child kind of book, whereas this one does have more like of an adult vibe. It's probably to do with the theme, but no, I did really enjoy it. I was a little sad towards the end with sort of how things unfolded, kind of what it all actually meant for them and for Narnia. That bit was a little bit of a bummer, but other than that, it was a really good read and I am really glad I read it. So the second book I finally finished, and I say finally because I finally started the Throne of Glass series. So I started off reading The Assassin's Blade, which is the 5 novella stories. I bought these years ago individually on Kindle, but then a bind-up came up with it. It is really interesting for me to read this world coming via the novellas first, because I think if I'd have actually read these as these had been released, I probably would have read the first book, maybe the second, and then read the novellas. So I feel like the Selena that I've met in this will be probably so different from the other books. I really enjoyed this. I really, like, it's such like a great taster, and these novellas actually work so well as just being like a standalone book of just this girl and her adventures. I will be spoilery in this because obviously this book has now been out for so long. I expected the worst in regards to Sam. He is not a name I recognise in all like the Bookstagram posts and all like just the fanning over all of this. His is not a name I think I've ever seen pop up, so I was kind of like, okay, I don't really recognise this name. This ain't gonna be good. My one criticism would probably be, which is probably why this didn't get 5 stars, would be I don't know if I can really not get on with Celine, but I found her personality kind of odd. She very much had, you know, she is like the spoiled, pampered assassin. That's fine, that's great. And then in the first book, you know, she frees the slaves, you know, she does have some sort of a moral compass. But I found it weird in the second one. She suddenly went like hating Sam, even though he helped her free the slaves. She went from hating him to suddenly thinking, actually, there might be some feelings like in it. Like that to me just felt really weird. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm glad they got together. Like, I liked them together as a pairing because he really changed how she thought and she became so different because of him. But it just didn't feel right. And sometimes like some of the things she would do, like she would go back to being spoiled and pampered and kind of not quite naive, but you just think, really, like that just doesn't feel like it matches. Like when she saves the healer, some of those things, like I liked that one actually. I like that that's all that story was. Sorry, the book almost fell off my lap. I like that that's what that story was and there was nothing else. It was just her getting from one place to the other. And I really did. I really loved the one in the desert. I loved all of it. I just thought it was really good. I thought it was such like a good taster, but it would have really worked well as a standalone. The next book I have for you, if you've been reading, if you've been watching my previous 2 videos, you will know that I have read the oldest book on my shelf. That is the Brothers Grimm. I have decided that I'm going to read 10 stories a week. That is what works for me. I took this book with me to work to try and I finished like those books really early. So I was like, okay, well I've got kind of like almost 2 weeks left of January. So I was like, I'll at least dedicate 1 week to taking this book with me to work because I was being quite social, so I couldn't read as much at home. So I thought, you know what, we'll read this. And it was such as like, I remember why I stopped reading it. It is quite a bit of a struggle. So 10 stories a week is what works for me because the stories are weird and it's just block writing, it's not broken up, so after a while you're like, what? And sometimes I will start off paying attention really well and suddenly I have no idea what's going on and it's just like, what? But I am determined I'm going to finish this book. It needs to be done. So moving into February, because I then had an extra week left, I started my February reads early. So I started reading Reflection by Elizabeth Lim. So this is one of the Twisted Tales series. The others are all by Liz Braswell. So this one is the retelling of Moonlight. This story picks up straight away from when the Hun's advancing and she causes the avalanche with the rocket. So that happens, and then not Shang, the other one, the Hun whose name I can't remember, goes to attack her, and Shang gets in the way and he basically like nearly dies. So Mulan travels to the underworld to try and rescue Shang's spirit to bring him back to our world. I really like this. I really have been in love with this series for the fact of it's really cool to read something different. This one has less kind of hints to the other, like the original like Disney films, as it were. Like take for instance, Aladdin was literally word for word Aladdin until we get to the point where it all changes when he gets the lamp, and then the books after that really did stray, like they didn't have that kind of like exact pairing. I do have the next book in the series, which is Part of Your World, which is based on Ursula. If I get time, I will also read that as well, because I love me some Disney books and it is my birthday. I'm so far really enjoying this. I am halfway through this book, so hopefully I will finish this next week. But it's really cool. It's really actually fun to explore that side of their culture, and I like, this is like why I love like Greek and Norse mythology. I like their sort of the worlds, like their realms, like, you know, exploring the underworld, how it all works for them, their sort of history, their ancestry. So I think it's really cool. So I think this book is so great for exploring that side of things. So once I finish that, I will pick up Mother Knows Best, Listen to Your Mother. I can't help but sing that. Mother Gothel. So this is another Disney series retelling that I am in love with by Serena Valentino. I am so glad that this series expanded from a trilogy to this, because the more you read it, the more she was like putting in like these little threads and these little hints about other worlds and other characters, and Maleficent was really being heavily like featured in one of these books, and I was like, if I don't get a Maleficent book, I'm gonna freak out. There is already another one coming our way which features the three odd sisters and their other sister, who is featured very heavily in the other books. It's kind of at a turning point, especially with Maleficent. It became more about the world and the other characters, and then you sort of have Maleficent's backstory. So this one is, I can't actually remember, let's read the blurb together, shall we? A tale as long and twisted as the braided hair at the centre of its legend. A girl with magical hair taken from her parents and confined to an isolated tower. Her captor, an old witch who acts as an over-oppressive mother who knows not best. But what does Mother Gothel actually know? This account digs deep into the past to find out why she believes in her heart that Mother truly knows best. So this is what I love. These books kind of get to the root of what happened to them as to why they become like this. We've only had one male, and that was the Beast. The rest have all been ladies. I love the covers because it is beautiful Mother Gothel, and then you have like their altar on the back. This series just is so amazing, and I would so recommend you reading them because they're just so much fun. Like, I can't even. So you've got the first one, which is based on the Evil Queen. The second one, you've got, I think I have to, oh wait, has it got it in the back? Yes, how helpful. The Beast Within, which is Beauty and the Beast. Poor Unfortunate Souls, which is Ursula, and then the next one is Maleficent, which is Mistress of All Evil, I do believe. So the final book that I will be reading in February, it's another childhood reads. I managed to track down, because I wanted this exact copy, because this is the copy I had as a kid, and ironically I found it down the road from me. I have never finished this book, The Enchanted Wood by Enid Blyton. It goes by another name, which I think is something Forest, which I think is what I kept searching. I feel like in England it's called one name and in America it's called another, bit like Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, and I think that's why I could never find it. And the Magic Faraway Tree, that's what it's also called, the Faraway Tree, because the other books are called The Magic Faraway Tree, The Folk of the Faraway Tree, and I think I must have been searching the Faraway Wood maybe, but I only wanted this specific cover. I got this cover when I was like a kid, like 6 or 7, went to Malta, and apparently that's where we found this book. And I have reread this book so many times you will not believe, but I have never in my life gotten to the end of it. Now is the time. I'm 27, well I will be in like next month. Oh my god, this month. I'm gonna be 27 in 20 days. Okay, let's not deal with that. Yeah, it's about time I finally read this. Whether I will go on to read the rest of them, is probably very unlikely unless I find matching covers. I'm all about matching covers. But this this book, I absolutely friggin' loved it as a kid. Like, there was something about, I think it was like the only hardback I owned maybe, and I loved it. It was so precious. In fact, mine had little teeth marks in them. I think I used to nibble the hardcover. I don't know what was wrong with me as a child. And then, like I said, if I can pick up the other Twisted Tale, then I will try and do that as well. That is it for this week. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you think of my reads, my previous reads of last month, and what are you picking up this month as well. Have you ever, in your case, picked up, this is the thing I have, the Brothers Grimm. It's a book I picked up back in 2011, got halfway through it and then never finished it. Do you have a book that you keep picking up and trying to reread? Like, I don't know why as a child I never got to the end of it, because I always kept restarting it. So it's not like I didn't want to read it or I didn't like it. There was a part in it I didn't like. Because I feel like if it had a giant spider in it as a kid, I would never have reread it ever again. Yet for some reason, I don't know what happened. It would be great to get to a point where I suddenly think, new story, I've never read this before. That'll be quite fun. As always, comment below, I want to hear from you, and smash that like button. Show me a thumbs, it'll mean the world to me. And if you are new, then hello, welcome. Subscribe to see lots more videos, and yeah. I hope you all have a great week ahead of you, and I will see you soon. Oh my god, did you guys have snow? Did anyone else have snow as well? We literally had snow for like a day. It wasn't even that. I think like it came like during the night and sort of thing, and Mum was like, oh my god, like this getting to work will be chaos, because we have to climb over a bridge to get into work, and luckily it was on my day off, so I didn't have to go to work. It was very quiet when I woke up, and I was like, oh, maybe Mum like has gone to work. But then I looked at my messages and I was like, oh, she hasn't messaged me, because I was expecting like a whole like shebang about this, and nothing. So I was like, am I home alone or not? I didn't really know if I should go to the gym or not, because my trainers have zero grip, and I didn't want to stack it on the bridge, because Mum sent me a photo of when she went to work and it looked so icy. Our road looked like a death trap. Like, where everyone had just trodden on it, it was just ice. And I was like, I don't want to die. So I did some yoga at home instead. But I've seen like the weather like on the news from America, and oh my god, the newsreader, he took a shirt outside that was like soaking wet, and within 6 minutes he was like smashing it on the side of a bridge and it wasn't budging, and I was like, I don't want to die. They were interviewing some guy and he had frost on his eyelashes, and he was like, yeah, he's like, my eyes have frosted shut a couple of times. I was like, go indoors, why are you outside? In Britain we don't cope well with snow. It's because we never get it. Anyway, have a nice week.